Americans drank an estimated 517 million cups of coffee daily in 2022, spending almost $110 billion on the beverage that year. Cold brews, espresso-based beverages, and perfectly roasted beans are among the top drinks for today's coffee aficionados.
A lot of American coffee drinkers really look down on instant, and that's been the category's key problem for a long time.
Look, challenges of instant coffee has always been a challenge of quality, I would say.
But one segment of the US market has given up grounds. Instant coffee, the kind that dissolves in hot water, has seen consumption fall to just 4% of American coffee drinkers. By comparison, instant coffee accounts for about 25% of the coffee consumed globally.
Every morning you reach for your favorite red can, thinking you're brewing up nostalgia. But here's the truth. What's in that tub isn't the same coffee you grew up with. The beans are cheaper, roasted in bulk, and by the time they hit your cup, they've lost nearly all freshness. The result? A bitter, cardboard-tasting brew dressed up in memory.
The misnomer is that people often think that people have stopped drinking instant coffee because we have so much specialty coffee in abundance today. However, it actually has been steadily growing for the last 20 years.
Instant coffee has been seen many years, and not only in the US, but in other places, as an inferior quality of coffee. But I think with Nescafe and what we do, we definitely have the means to explain more to consumers what is soluble coffee.
There are several challenges of coffee growing, and if you look back, let's say for a generation ago, it is harder to grow coffee today.
If you look at global consumption, it rises every year. So arguably this is the best year ever for instant coffee, and next year will probably be a better one than that.
And that's just one example. Today we're uncovering 7 coffees that trick you with history and promises, yet fall flat in the cup, and the 2 that actually deliver the flavor you're paying for. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video.
To find out, CNBC traveled to Vietnam, the world's second largest exporter of coffee behind Brazil, to get a look at Nescafe's operation there. By 2019, 42% of American households owned a single cup brewing system.
A lot of people became coffee snobs in the last couple of decades, became very, interested in different kinds of coffee, different brewing methods, different origins. And throughout all that, it's been bad for
Impact was taking people out of their home to drink coffee. And that was a big change, getting them to leave their house and drink coffee someplace else. So that maybe had the most significant impact on instant coffee.
Why are millions of Americans still waking up to coffee that tastes thin, flat, and bitter when better options sit on the very same shelf? The answer lies in a blind spot that has been built over decades. People are attached to familiar names that have sat in their kitchens since childhood. They trust the cans and bags that look the same as they did in the 1980s. It feels safe, it feels routine, but behind the labels, the quality has changed. What once might have been a dependable cup has slipped because companies found cheaper ways to fill the tins and still pocket the loyalty of buyers who rarely question what sits inside.
There is a very strong, loyal consumer base in the US that consumes soluble coffee, and one of these subsets of this consumer base is the Latin American immigrants, mainly Mexicans.
Our consumers are generally younger. We over-index with younger consumers. We over-index with people who are just beginning their career, so a little bit lower on the income scale.
The ads tell a story of warmth, family, and tradition. The slogans haven't moved an inch in decades because names alone can anchor people more effectively than the coffee itself. The coffee giants learned that it doesn't matter if the beans lose freshness or if the roast becomes uniform and bland, so long as people still see the same logo at the store. That's how cost-cutting became the standard. Mega factories roast beans on industrial schedules, steadily pumping out massive volumes. Quality takes a back seat to efficiency, and every shortcut shaves cost from the product. By the time it hits the supermarket aisle, the comforting label hides beans that taste lifeless in the cup. Take Folgers. For many, the smell from their parents' kitchen defined mornings. A recognizable red container sat on the counter while steam curled over stained mugs. But time has not been kind to what's inside. Instead of balanced, rich flavor, Folgers tins now rely heavily on beans from the lower end of the quality scale. Industrial roasting flattens whatever character remains, leaving behind bitter notes that no cream or sugar can fix. It's a clash between memory and what the brand delivers today. One sip and the difference is impossible to hide. Then there's Maxwell House. Once served in the White House and associated with presidential households, its reputation carried enormous weight. That prestige has eroded. The coffee itself doesn't live up to the stories told by advertising. It pours into a cup that looks exactly how you want it to, but the flavor fails. It's thin, shallow, and disappears quickly on the tongue. The famous catchphrases still ring out in commercials and packaging, yet the brew doesn't back them up. It has become a product where the marketing is stronger than the contents. Yuban and chock full of nuts are different faces of the same promise. Yuban advertises itself as bold and earthy, while chock full of nuts uses the word premium to suggest a cut above the rest. But when you actually brew them, the results tell another story. Stored for months in metal cans, both lines often taste flat or oddly metallic. Some report burnt undertones as though the roast was taken too far, covering weakness in the beans. These are coffees marketed with elevated language but caught in the same problem as their rivals: age, packaging, and shortcuts that leave the cup worse than the label suggests. Next are the so-called budget choices like 8 o'clock and Walmart's Great Value Coffee. People buy them hoping for a reliable deal. At first glance, the ground coffee smells decent, but within days of opening, the aroma vanishes. What's left brews into cups that swing between sharp acidity and plain wateriness. The beans are simply lower grade, roasted to fill bags quickly and cheaply. What looks like savings ends up wasted when you realize you have to load more scoops per pot just to taste something. Even regional pride can't always withstand the bean problem. Community coffee built a deep following in the South, tied to family roots and local loyalty. But when the brand moved into single-serve pods, something critical vanished. The natural oils that add depth don't survive the pod process. The result is a sour, underdeveloped taste capped with a trace of plastic. People who once swore by the brand often notice the dramatic shift, as if their beloved morning ritual was swapped overnight for a poor imitation. Altogether, these 7 traps don't just disappoint, they mislead. They don't provide equal value for the dollar spent. People blame their coffee makers or believe they must be brewing wrong, when in fact the problem comes upstream. Beans arrive compromised before you even measure them. Mass production trims costs, freshness is lost in warehouses, and clever slogans disguise it all. That's why 7 of the biggest names in American kitchens consistently leave drinkers unsatisfied. But not every shelf is a wasteland. A couple brands quietly resist these shortcuts, holding on to strong beans and roasts that live up to expectation. Those 2 exceptions actually deliver on the promise of supermarket coffee, and they're the ones worth knowing about. The fix isn't adding more cream or sugar, it's buying smarter. 2 options actually deliver what the label promises. Pete's Major Dickinson's blend offers a dark, robust cup that holds its flavor from the first pour to the last sip. Lavazza Espresso Italiano, though lighter, brings consistent freshness and body that doesn't fade. These aren't marketed illusions. They're solid choices that respect the drinker. Now you know how to avoid wasting money on flat coffee. Share your own disappointments or discoveries in the comments. Like any good strategy, knowing weak points means you can outmaneuver the supermarket aisle every time.